If you've ever stared at your mortgage statement and thought, what if I just threw some extra money at this thing and knocked it out? You're not alone. That question comes up constantly, often because you have some extra cash flow and you're just not sure what to do with it. So, should you pay off the mortgage early? The honest answer is it depends on your rate and your personal goals, and I'm going to show you exactly how I walk through this question with clients. I'm Jeff McDermott, a certified financial planner and the founder of Create Wealth Financial Planning. And on this channel, I help people take the stress out of difficult questions like this one. By the end of this video, you'll know the logical framework financial planners use to help make this call, and also understand where behavioral finance plays a role. This should help you develop a clear answer for your own situation. If you'd like to hear the answers to other questions like this, hit subscribe to stay in the loop. Now, paying extra on your mortgage is more than just getting out of debt. It is really an investment decision that should be evaluated against all the possible things that you could do with your next dollar. Every dollar you put towards principal essentially earns you a guaranteed return equal to the mortgage interest rate. No market risk, no volatility, no wondering what happens if the economy tanks. If your mortgage rate is 6%, paying it down is like earning 6% with zero risk. According to Bankrate, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate is over 6.5% right now, mid-July 2026. That's not a trivial return to walk away from. So the real question is not, should I pay off my mortgage? The real question is, how does it compare to other options I have with that money? One way to think about this is to look at three zones that your mortgage might be in. So take a moment, check that actual mortgage rate. Zone 1, let's say your rate's below 4 to 4.5%. You locked in during 2020 or 2021 at 2.5 or 3%. Congratulations, that is cheap money to be borrowing with. The S&P 500, which is the index of the 500 largest companies in the U.S. stock market, averages about 10% a year before taxes, or 7 to 8% after taxes for most investors over long periods of time. And most people aren't just invested in the S&P 500, but even a diversified portfolio that might return 6 or 7% annually. The math there strongly favors investing that extra cash rather than rushing to pay off a mortgage with an ultra-low interest rate. Keep the loan. Make sure you invest that extra cash. Alternatively, if you have a low risk tolerance and you would just be putting that cash in a money market or high yield savings, the math might change. If you only expect a 3% or so return on those funds, then even paying off a lower mortgage rate might make sense if you could do better on that than on the cash yield. So asking what you would actually do with the extra money here is super important. Now in the middle, zone 2 is where that interest rate is between maybe 4.5 to 6.5 or 7%. This is where a lot of people with mortgage taken out in the last few years might land, and your mortgage rate might not be that different from your expected investment returns. Monarch did a study in 2026 of their personal finance research. The tipping point where the mortgage payoff starts competing seriously with investing is usually around that 7% range. Consider a balanced approach here if you want to put some money towards the mortgage, but also maybe grab items like the 401k employer match, make some other tax advantage contributions like a Roth IRA first, and then work on paying the mortgage down after you've maxed out some of those other accounts. Now up here in zone 3, those are folks with interest rates above 6.5 or 7%. Paying it down becomes much more attractive, especially if you're maybe 10 to 15 years for retirement, or you just genuinely hate carrying the debt. Guaranteed 7% plus return is hard to beat consistently in the market once you factor in taxes and the fact that markets don't go up in a straight line. Comparing these interest rates, though, that solves the logic side of the equation, the math problem, but it doesn't fully capture liquidity and psychology, which both matter a lot too. As far as liquidity goes, keep in mind when you make extra mortgage payments, that money is pretty much locked up in your home. You cannot easily get it back out without selling the house or taking out something like a home equity line. Investing that money in a brokerage account keeps your options open for emergencies, opportunities, unexpected life changes. The flexibility there has value, and I do tend to favor flexibility in my planning versus decisions that are a little more difficult to undo. If you don't think you're in your forever home, it might make sense to keep the funds liquid and put it towards your next house instead of having them locked away in a mortgage that's going to get paid off anyway when you sell the current home. Now, psychology is another big factor. This is a lot of times where that internal struggle happens, and it drives a lot of investors to want to get that mortgage paid off, even when it's not the best financial move. It's completely understandable. Some people might have grown up watching their parents struggle with debt, or they went through some financial rough patch. Carrying a mortgage into retirement doesn't sit right with a lot of people. Some financial personalities out there really harp on the idea of paying off debt before anything else, and we're conditioned to that idea of doing things. If that sounds like you, paying off the mortgage early might be the right call, even if the pure math says otherwise. The one thing I'd ask you to do first is just make sure you understand the trade-off clearly. If keeping the loan means an extra 200,000 in your investment portfolio at retirement, it's worth knowing before you decide. You might still choose to pay it off though, if that's what will actually allow you to retire or sleep easier at night, and that's perfectly fine. Just make the decision aware of all your options. There's also the behavioral question from the other side of things. Will you actually invest the extra money if you keep the loan, or will it just quietly get absorbed into your life? Investing that extra money that you would have otherwise put towards the home loan is the only way the investment scenario comes out ahead. So if the honest answer here is that you don't have the discipline to save and invest the money, prepaying the mortgage might be the smartest move you can make, because at least you're capturing that guaranteed return by paying down the house instead of spending it on things that you might not remember in 5 years. Kind of like overpaying your taxes just so you get a refund. If that's the only way you can save, then it might make sense. So the short answer here is find your interest rate, find your zone, make the call from there. Factor in how important liquidity is for you, when you're going to retire and if it'd be okay retiring with a mortgage or not, and your general comfort level with debt. The math matters, but so does your sanity and removing mental obstacles to your goals. If you want help running the numbers on your specific situation and figuring out which path actually makes sense for you, book a free intro call with me at the link in the description at Create Wealth Financial Planning.